Brent, what's up, dude? Hey.
This is Brent.
Prove it.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, dude? How are you?
Run a check.
Good to hear.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Good. How are you?
It sounds like him.
I'm good. Yeah, it's me. For everyone, someone asked, what's my opinion on Palestine? We'll get to that.
Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Brent, you should come on and we'll do a whole show on it. It'll be fun. Hey, Brent, Brent, let me ask you some of the questions I've already asked the boys, and thank you for calling in. It's awesome having you here. Let me ask you some questions. What do you think about what do you think about the workouts being released early? Does it influence your training at all? What are the impacts on you as an athlete?
Yeah, I think it affects everyone a little differently. I think with these, there's no new movements in these. Like all of these movements, I was saying to my coach, David Spur of Only Training, little plug.
Thank you.
I was saying to my coach that these movements could all have been at the 2014 or 15 semifinals or regionals at the time, and they wouldn't be out of place. They're a little heavier than they would have been back then.
Yep.
So I feel like all the athletes are going to be very familiar with these movements, whereas last year it's like, pirouettes and, ruck muscle ups. Like, so I felt like having more time with those movements last year would have, benefited someone who hadn't been training those movements. Whereas with these, I think most athletes that are pretty good are going to look at these and say, I think this is how I should attack it. They'll do the workout once, which they would have had time to do if they were released next week anyway. And then they make a few adjustments and then they'll just hit it. So I don't think it has I prefer to not know them until the day, to be honest, less stress, but I don't think it has a huge impact.
That's a great assessment. Hey, Brent, the term sometimes they say is, the last day of the games, they'll say stuff like, okay, this is the CrossFit workout start. When you look at this semifinals, kind of what I'm hearing you say to the layman is that this semifinals looks like it's all CrossFit, couplets, triplets, couple races.
Yeah. I mean, other than obviously the snatch workout is just like one thing. It's just snatching on snatching. And then everything else has, it's the first one's, a cardio movement, monostructural with weightlifting. And the next one has three. It's got a cardio movement with the double unders. It's got a gymnastics with the toes to bar, weightlifting with the front squat. So yeah, it's like a lot of, they use the term classic CrossFit is overused, but because I think everyone has a different meaning on what that is, but that's what these workouts are. It's just like, it's, barbell and a machine, or it's double unders and a front squat. So yeah, no, it's all stuff we've done before. There's not a lot of massive surprises or big twists or new movements. So I think it'll be fun to watch. I think they're good overall.
The argument that Andrew Hiller made, the premise he gave for posting the workout is that he knew that people had to work out. John Young confirmed that other people had to work out. So we knew more than one camp or one group of athletes had to work out, and that it would only be fair if everyone got the workout. I have two questions for you. The first one, do you think that that's making those assumptions or presuppositions? Do you think that that's the right thing? Hey, if some people know them, then everyone needs to know them, and HQ made the right choice to release them all?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I mean, people can believe this or not. I didn't know any of the workouts.
Okay, that was my second question. Had it reached you or your coach? It had not reached you.
No, it hadn't.
Brent's not in the in crowd.
I'll give you guys. Oh no, I'm not. Apparently, I think people know I'm a goody two shoes, so I just tattle on them. Like that's my guess. Is people don't tell me because they assume if they told me I would rat on them, which is probably true. Because I believe in like fairness of sport. It's this crazy thing. But yeah, I think if people start to know, I think it makes sense to just let everyone know. It's a shame that they got leaked. My guess is, it's 2 weeks from the first semi, is CrossFit was probably holding them pretty tight. And then they just started to have to tell more people. They had to start telling people that were making graphics or media. They probably had to tell each semi-final organizer, and they had to give them floor plans. They had to give them equipment lists. They had to give them heat and schedule times. And then the list goes from maybe 5 people knowing it to 50. And then, you get to a group, to a crowd, and then there's no way to know who has the workouts. And so, I mean, I can tell you one thing. When I was going on the bus to the 2016 CrossFit Games, I got a text from a friend who said, "Hey, I know someone who's at the ranch and they're setting up a bunch of heavy bars for a deadlift ladder." That's one of the only times I can think of. And then at the 2022 games, I think it was the 2022 games, I feel like everybody like knew everything. There must have been some crazy leak because I kept hearing from a bunch of male athletes like, "Oh, did you hear this?" I'm like, "What? No." And they just kept telling me, "Oh, there's this workout with like a heavy yoke and then heavy cleans." And sure enough, we did that. And, I heard people knew about the wall facing handstand push-ups like a week before, and everyone was practicing something else and they were right. So yeah.
Was that the year, Brent, there was
Yeah,
rope
that was
gate?
the heavy double unders
Was that-
or something, wasn't it?
Was that the rope gate year too? Like people showed up.
No,
with
that
the-
was the double under crossover.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the same year. And, I didn't know about that until it was announced, but then, then afterwards, the days after following, and, some people are holding beaded ropes and you're like, "Oh, this guy is friends with this guy who's on the demo team who had this beaded rope. And then he's with RX Smart Gear or something like that." Or not necessarily RX Smart Gear, but some jump rope company. So I don't know, like
Good
it happens,
recovery.
right? And
Brent Fikowski throws RX Smart Gear under the bus.
and nobody buy RX Smart Gear rope.
Hey, Brent,
No, they're good.
there was an interview I saw, and I apologize for not remembering the details. I don't know if it was 6 months ago or a year ago, but I think it may have been on Coffee Pods and Wads, and I think it was with your coach. And he mentioned that one of the years you were injured. I don't remember the injury, but I remember kind of being aghast at how serious the injury was and that we never knew. Can you, if you don't mind, since the cat's out of the bag, can you tell us about that? And then I have some questions like, how hard was that for you? Did it affect you? And are you healed from that? What kind of Brent are we going to see this year?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I decided to just kind of keep to myself. I think there's going to be a culture of oversharing on the internet that I'm not
good
like
job,
a big
David.
fan of in some regards. I try to keep some things private. And yeah, so I was dealing with an injury that year, and I decided to just kind of keep it under wraps.
What was the
And
injury?
I'm still kind of private about it.
You are okay, but it was serious.
Yeah, it was a knee injury, and it was pretty serious, and it was in 2021 at the games.
How close were you to pulling out?
Toe to bar run workouts where it was probably the most noticeable.
You saw it. You could tell, John.
Yeah,
he was hobbling.
But he was like last place in a 3-mile run, and Brent Fikowski is typically a pretty good runner.
Okay. How close were you to pulling out in 2021?
I mean, I guess I'll just kind of circle back. Like the reason, I don't really know now the reason I didn't tell anyone. I just felt like it wasn't anybody else's business at the time, I suppose. And I didn't want to be the guy that was like, "Oh, if I didn't have this injury, I would have won the games." That year I came third, which I was proud of. And it just felt like it would have taken away from everyone else. Now, in hindsight, what's kind of interesting is it probably, if I'm being realistic, it probably affected my next year more than it affected that year because, anyway, a bunch of stuff happened with the knee.
Recovery.
So, like, the next year, the 2022 season, I didn't do as well. And so if I just would have told everyone and made this whole like comeback story, I probably would have made more money.
There it is.
Fair.
You can sell a comeback story. You can't sell "oh, he's not good anymore" story. But I don't know. I guess that's like, yeah. I was talking to. I mean, I'll give one other quick kind of analogous example. I was speaking with a coach who had a falling out with an athlete, and the coach said, "Yeah, if I came public with all the reasons we had this falling out, that athlete wouldn't look too good, but I'm going to like take the high road and just be like, oh, like everything's fine."
Kotler.
But in doing so, they're like, I've lost a lot of money. I've lost a lot of money because, the loss of that athlete has hurt my reputation and my brand. And so it's kind of this weird, like, if you do the thing that isn't right, sometimes you make more money, which is a frustrating world we live in. So I don't know.
Kotler didn't hurt your brand. Okay. Brent, how hungry are you to win the games?
That's a good question. I don't know if I'd call it hunger as much as focus. I definitely, there was a year where I tried to kind of do the whole, like, I'm going to win at all costs. Kind of
all in.
I don't know if that's like a Michael
Whole
Jordan
documentary on it.
Yeah, and I don't know, like that kind of mindset, like that, I refuse to lose. Just, I felt it stressed me out. But I mean, I know what I'm about. Like I'm in the gym, you know, nonstop in the day, and I push myself as hard as I can, and you know, I'm doing something right. And so yeah, I mean, like I as far as hungry, I'm as hungry as I have been every year. But I feel like I believe, and I realize hope is lost last, but I believe that I can win this year, and I believe I have a better shot this year than I did any other year. But
you'll cry if you'll cry if you win, though.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. It'll be an emotional release.
So will I, Brent.
Yeah. I think I'd cry. I think Pedro would cry.
Yeah,
I
Pedro
will
would definitely cry.
I'll cry. I think a lot of people would. I mean, you've been in the hunt for a long time.
Dude, you're such a fixture in that fucking top elite category. It's crazy what you've done. Brent, what pretend you're a coach, and you have an athlete there, and the athlete were to ask you, this is for North America East and North America West, and the athlete said to you, what's the worst I can do in an event and still make it?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah. Like how can you, I mean, if you could reverse engineer it when the weekend's over, you'd probably go, okay, I need to finish, you know, 10th place in every workout, or it'd be something like that. I mean, you could do the numbers. It might even be lower than that. It might be 12th in every workout, but then that means if you win one workout, you can have a 20th.
You can do that in semifinals. But I mean, I know at the games you can take a 24th and come back and win the whole shebang. But it's semifinals. It's pretty tight, right? I mean, this is the stress. As far as events go, this is the most stressful event for all the athletes during the year, right?
Yeah, I think for some athletes. Hold on, let me just make sure. Oh no, we're good.
Because if you shit the bed in one event, your whole season's over.
I mean, yes, but at semis, if you're trying to make the games, you need to finish, you know, 9th, right? And so, I mean, if I'm just pulling up like the women last year in the East,
look at you, look at you beating Caleb. Don't let him do that upstage and pull that up. Put him in the knees, Caleb. Don't
Caleb, you're about to get fired, Caleb.
Brent Fikowski now runs the back end of the Sevan Podcast.
All right, so James Sprague. Last year, and he made it, right? He came 2nd, 17th, 6th, 25th, 16th, 24th, 7th.
In the semifinals.
Like,
out of 60 people, though.
Yeah,
so
I was like, there was a bigger
because there's 40 people.
Okay, all right, you got me there. Okay, well, let's go back a year.
But that's still good. I would have never thought that. I would never thought you could have two finishes out of the top 10 and still make it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can. I think people tend to forget that, right? I think they can get like really freaked out early, and then it's like, hey, so here, I mean, obviously it's different because this year I just went to some random semi the year before where there were 40 men, which at the time you needed to come top 5, but let's say you needed to come 9th. Matt Poulin, he came 9th that year, and so his finishes were in 6 workouts, so that's a good comparison. 21st, 5th, 19th, 4th, 2nd, 22nd.
So 220.
Oh, wow. So he was really all around.
So that guy Matt Poulin, he made it to the games. That guy's gone to the games.
No, he would have yeah.
Oh,
apples and oranges, but basically, like if you went to semis in the let's call it the East women, and you finished 11th in every workout, I think you probably make the games.
Oh yeah.
Are you going to East or West?
West. I'll be at the West in Cali.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, does it bother you now that I have your phone number?
Oh, is it on caller ID?
Hey, okay. So let me ask you, let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about relationships. I don't remember where, but I was watching some video live and we were all watching it. And after an event, I think you put your arm around Colton or something, or you hugged him or some shit. And we saw a few weeks ago, quarterfinals, Jason tried to touch him or hug him and he pulled away. Does that sound familiar to you, or you did something to Colton?
Wadapalooza?
Was it Wadapalooza?
Well,
like you grabbed him or held him, like you held him or something. You guys had a
listen. Why are you touching Colton?
Yeah, that too. And how'd that go? Did you get a warning from him? Like, don't do that again?
Did you? I know he told me he doesn't like that Jason guy. That's what he said.
When you were hugging him, he whispered it in your ear.
I only let you do this.
No, I don't know. He didn't push me away. like Colt and I get along really well. We've had some good chats, and it's kind of funny. Like, obviously, you know, I'm like the tall guy and he's the short guy, but I feel like there's like a bond there because, you know, we understand how you have to train to kind of overcome that in a way.
The outliers.
You're both outliers on different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. And so we've had some good chats about that, and, you know, just how, you know, not to, but yeah, just how we have to really neglect the things we're good at and just not work on them so that we can have more time and more energy. And, you know, whether that's like whatever term you want to use, let's just call it total number of repetitions in your legs a week that you kind of have that are quality. Like, I can't be spending those on wall balls, basically.
Do you ever go do you ever go shopping together so that he can get the stuff off the bottom shelf and you can reach the high up stuff?
No,
you guys don't go at the games. You guys don't go to Whole Foods together and shop together, so you guys can.
No, and I think part of the, you know, I like Colton, and I never pick on him because of his height either. Unlike you guys,
right?
So
I have never picked on Colton because of his height.
I have. Okay. Hey, Brent, what a pleasure to have you call in. Thank you, dude.
Oh, can I ask him one more thing?
Oh yeah, Pedro has another question for you before I let you go. Here we go.
Speaking of Wodapalooza, when I talked to Ricky after the individual event was over for team, there was like a moment after he won where you guys were like hugging for like 8 minutes and talking a lot. Like, you were talking a lot.
Did they take a knee when they hugged for 8 minutes? That's the time frame.
And where was Colton?
I asked, watching, shaking his head. I asked Ricky afterwards what you said to him, and he said it, but I was just curious from your perspective or memory, what did you think that conversation was about, or why did you initiate that conversation?
Oh, I just wanted to congratulate him on a good weekend, and we chatted about a couple other things, but it was stuff just I wanted him to hear from me. And that's just kind of all that I'll say. If people want to try and dig it up or ask him, they can, but it was more just things that I felt I needed to say to him or wanted to say to him. And yeah, I just, that was really it. Yeah.
You can go watch my vlog from Wodapalooza if you want to hear what he
said. So Brent, I take it that you, from the sound of it, is you really enjoy the competition and the camaraderie with the boys out there on the floor. Like that is something, it sounds like it's something special to you. But we, you know, the two stories we dug up are both illustrations of that.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think there's some expression, I wish I had it memorized, but it's like, you know, nobody knows you as well as your enemy. Mm-hmm. And so I think, you know, the fact that we've all, you know, I know the kind of stuff that they've gone through without knowing it specifically, because I know there's only, you know, one way to get to where we are. Right. And it's, you know, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard hours in the gym, a lot of, you know, conquering self-doubt, and a lot of sweat and all that. So I think,
I don't know. There's another way. Phil Toon found another way.
Yeah, that's true.
2 ways. I didn't mean to ruin your story though. Right. I just want to let you know there's 2 ways.
that was a good quip. I'll give you that one. But yeah, I think it's just that, right? And you know, what's interesting is, like, I consider someone like Colton Mertens or Pat Vellner, like, you know, good friends, even though, like, I don't really spend that much time with either of them, you know, but there's a shared bond there that, I feel like we could be, you know, we could hang out for a week and we would know each other, if that makes sense, even though we haven't really spent any quality time together. Even Pat and me, we really don't spend any quality time. We call every now and again. But I consider him one of my best friends. And I think that's just, you know, sharing those experiences and, you know, having those kind of shared memories. And like, I helped some athletes through quarters this year. And I was like, oh, when it's all done, all you really have is memories and the friends you made. Like, that's, you know, no one's going to care about anything I did in a couple years, right? Like, the only people, I say this, I'm like, the only people anybody talks about that are not so competing is Fraser and Froning. Like, those are the only 2 names that anyone, like, regularly brings up in conversations about CrossFit as far as the athletes that aren't competing. Like, no one, and this isn't like a slight against them, but it's like, people aren't bringing up Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet or Chris Clever or Graham Holmberg or even really Jason Khalipa, unless they're talking about what he's doing with NC Fit. And those people were like my idols, right?
Right.
the narrative, it moves on as it should. Like it needs to, you need to be focusing on the present and the future. So like kind of all you have is just, your memories and your experiences and, your perception of how you did. And then, the actual friends you make, because, the friends I made in like volleyball and swimming are still some of, my cherished friends. So it's gonna be the same with this.
You ever talk French with Jeff Adler? You ever call him up and just talk French with him?
I don't know any French. I know Le Bibliothèque.
Okay. Hey, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Taylor Self will be doing a workout live on the Sevan Podcast. The show is called Kill Taylor.
Yeah, I should have done that rope climb workout. Did anyone beat him?
No, nobody.
He's not beatable. Don't get carried away. Don't get carried away.
Please show up and murder Taylor. I would love it. Please do it.
Someone sent me the rope climb workout, and this was like yesterday, and it just like it wouldn't make sense in my training. And I was like, I think I could probably beat that. Like, not to, he's obviously very fit, and it's easy to say that, and then you do it, and you're like, oh, it's 20 seconds or 10 seconds, but I was like, damn, that was $500. It's like a lot of money.
So tomorrow it's $1,000. It rolls over every week. So tomorrow it's $1,000.
Oh, it's like a radio show when they used to do the call in and name that noise or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I probably
sir.
wouldn't pick this week. I don't think you could beat him on this week's. But
is it released yet?
Do you know what it is?
Oh, never mind. No, I don't know.
Hold on. Let me see if it's,
let's see if this workout leaks.
It hasn't been released, right? I'm not going to say it if it hasn't been released.
Hold on. Let me see if it's
if it's live for.
And you guys are talking about integrity of leaked workouts, and here we are.
No, it's not out yet. I think it will come out at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Instagram, and then basically we go live at 10. And then people can send a link to this phone, and then or send a text to this phone, and then we send them a link. Now, not everyone will get a shot. As the show becomes more popular, it's going to get really hard to get in. But you think Taylor's going to make it to the games this year, Brent?
I mean, based on what I saw in quarters, and then based on these workouts, I think it's super possible. The East is really hard. Not to like. I think probably the last or the guy who squeaks in the East versus the guy who squeaks in the West, I would venture to guess that East athlete will have better scores. Is just
they'll be better at the games.
Guess. And so, yeah, so I think it'll be tough for him to get in the East, just with guys like Alex Vigneault and Caron Fournier, and then all the other top games athletes, Roman, Jeff, Dallin. I think it's possible, especially with these workouts. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's possible, but he's got to put it all together.
You think?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Yeah.
You think Dallin eventually wins the games?
I think he could.
You're putting him on the spot, so
no, I think so. It's just there's only one person that can win the games each year.
I know, but eventually, but he's so young. He's only 22, and if he stays healthy, I mean, the rest of you guys got to go away at some time. And he does, and he seems he seems like the youngest guy who's striking at the top.
That's fair.
I mean,
would you pick him over Jack Farlow and Jason Hopper?
I mean, you still got Justin Medeiros, and then there's going to be some other person you haven't heard of. And that's not to say that Dallin, but it's hard. There's not a lot of room at the top, right? It's just, let me put it to you this way. I think a better question is do I think Dallin Pepper can finish in the top 10, 4 of the next 6 years? Yes. Right. And to me, that's, and then anything above, in between 6th to 1st is, I think a lot of it's going to be luck and just timing and, what the workouts are and who else is there and who else is, peaked. And it's so many factors. I think he could win. I just don't think I would put money on anyone to win. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's just, it's not to say that he can't. It's just, I don't know. I think this sport, let me put it to you this way. If all of a sudden, the programming takes a big shift and it goes back to, lots of lighter weights and, lots more gymnastics and more running, it's he's going to have an uphill battle. But if it kind of continues on this trend where it's, bigger and heavier weights and echo bikes, then it's like, yeah, he's going to have a way better shot. So, and it's the same with me, right? Like, am I going to win the game? I hope so.
What if we had asked you the same question in 2015 about Fraser?
I think I would have said the same thing, Like, I think, well, let me think. 15.
He lost.
Well, in 15, he just came second. Yeah. And like, so and this isn't to like, chirp on Dallin, but yeah, Dallin came 5th at the games, and then Rogue was 2 months later, and I think he came 10th against the same field. Right. So it's not like, and not to say that 5th place, it was well earned, but it was largely in part due to his performances on the final day when there were 20 men left in the field. And so it's kind of this, like, it's just this, it's, the games is a crapshoot. Like, it's just, he could be fitter in every way this year and finish 6th.
Damn.
And we could all, it's just so chaotic. I think he could win though. Like, I mean, there isn't, if I was to bet the next, 5 years or 6 years, like, who is likely to be on top of the podium, it's like, it's the usual suspects if we stay in it. And then it's the young guys like Dallin and obviously Justin Medeiros. And then who are the other like guys?
And Austin Hatfield.
25.
Bill Leahy.
Jack Rosema.
Bill Leahy. No, Jack's not in that list.
Hey, Bill Leahy's going to shit the bed at semifinals, right, Fikowski?
He's about to say, who is that?
I don't know enough about Bill. I met him last year, and I told him I was disappointed that he was injured because I wanted to see him do his thing. He had a good quarters.
Yeah.
And obviously he crushed the legless workout the year before. So he can like put on a show, which is important. And yeah, I was bummed when he had the good quarters. Like, I want to see if this kid's like ready to party, and then he had to pull out due to injury. And so
he's not ready.
Told him I was bummed, and
he's not ready.
He's okay. He's not on your level, obviously, but he's going to put on a show at semifinals.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I hope so, right? I hope he's in the mix, and I mean, yeah, there's I'm sure there's like other guys that you and myself are not aware of that are, going to be gunning to beat him, and they'll claim their spot and be like, who is this? Like David Toller, some guy that just has some name that you've never heard of, and it's like, oh no, he's a games athlete, and then he makes a pro. Like, it just happens every year, right?
I don't know if you know who you're talking to, but John Young's aware of everyone. He's the senior analyst in the sport.
I'm aware of everyone. Yeah.
Everyone.
Dallin Pepper.
Brian knows much more about those guys than I do. I only know the guys that matter.
Come on, John, be the senior analyst.
Dallin Pepper just commented, come on, Brent, let him hear your true thoughts.
I like Dallin. Dallin's one of my favorites. I've nailed Dallin some books to read. I see something, so I'll tell you a funny little story, and then I got to get going.
Okay.
I mailed Dallin 2 books to read, and Jason Hopper heard about that, I think we were at Rogue, and he says, Brent, man, like, what the hell? Like, you're sending Dallin like cool books to read, and you don't send them to me. And I looked Hopper dead in the eyes, and I said, Hopper, it's because I see something special in him. And that was it.
Hopper went home and cried.
He meant to say, Hopper, you can't read. Come on.
Who you kidding?
That should be the Taylor Self challenge. You have Hopper and you have Taylor Self, and they open up a book to a page of Harry Potter, and whoever can read it without stuttering.
Wow.
That's so mean, but it'd be so funny.
Okay, Brent, we'll see you on the show. Hopefully you get in tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the Kill Taylor show, and I will get you scheduled for the Palestinian and Israeli conflict show very soon here.
Yeah. There's lots to. I have a breadth of knowledge on the topic, and I'm excited to share my thoughts.
All right. Hey, dude, it's a pleasure. Best thing that's happened in the show in a long time.
Hey,
Thanks,
you. Brent.
See you, Brent.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Fucking red panty night at my house. I may use 2 condoms tonight now that Brent called in.